going to be talking about extreme personalization. And what in the world does that really mean when we say extreme personalization? What is the purpose of using personalization when you're using software? In the past, we would always, the software would be delivered and we would open the box, we'd install it, and we'd use it as it functions. That's not so much the case in the Oracle world now with the introduction of UDOs and UX1 over the past few years. And so because of that, that's given us a lot of opportunity. So the question is, when we start talking about personalization, really what do we want to try to accomplish in doing that? So during this session, we're going to look at some extreme examples of some things, and we're going to try to look at not just doing it for the sake of being extreme, but for the sake of seeing, is there value in it for my company and the way that we do things? But what I wanted to do before we started, as we get started, sometimes when we introduce a new idea, we want to kind of change our mindset so that we can think about things in a little bit different way. And I thought this might prompt us here. So take a listen to this. Now, I know most of you have heard that sound at one point or another. Can I all get a hand raise from all of you for that? And most of the time, we've probably seen that in some capacity in the past. We were in a theater, and when we hear that, what do you think? You think to yourself, this is it. The movie's about to start. We shift how we think about where we've come from. We've come from a busy day. We walked into this theater and we sat down and we get going. And man, you hear that sound kind of launch, the going low sound, going to high, and it gets real loud and everything's shaking. But it changes our perception and it shifts us into a mode of thinking about, I'm going to be entertained. I'm going to be transported. I'm going to feel different as I go into this experience. So we should be, when we kind of think about experiencing doing new personalization, when we want to try to make a shift in our thinking about using these types of tools. So I'm going to go ahead and turn off my camera because you've seen enough of me. It looks like I don't have any hair, but I really do. So we'll go ahead and stop my camera. All right, let's get into it. All right, so why do we need to think about being extreme? It's sort of a strange question, isn't it? Well, the idea is that when we look at things in a much more broader context, all of a sudden we need to realize that there's opportunities everywhere. And so sometimes when we open up to displaying things, creating new grid formats and things like that, all of a sudden there's all sorts of things that are revealed to us that we may not have seen before. If you think about the 4-minute mile, before the 4-minute mile actually happened, everybody thought it was impossible and nobody could break it. As soon as that record was made and people broke the 4-minute mile, all of a sudden a host of other runners were able to do it. It happened just like that. So it's not like that it wasn't some impossible thing. It's just that no one had done it previously. All right, so where's my slide? Who would use these kinds of strategies for things? Thinking maniacally, using extreme things. Madmen, lunatics, who would use this kind of a thing? Are they like outliers? Well, I'm going to contend that no, that there really is a small percentage of what we would say are overachieving users capable of multitasking, problem solving, decision making. So yes, there are some examples of people like this. One of the examples that seems to be most evident, you can think about Steve Jobs. He was a guy who thought very extreme. He thought we can change the way that we see our computers, the way that we use them, how we perceive them. He created great tools. And a lot of people thought that he was a bit out there, which he was, no doubt about it. But he created some really amazing things. Also, Elon Musk, talk about an extreme guy who decided that going to space wasn't just for NASA. The thought of having reusable rockets, the idea of making electric cars really cool and really fast both, something good for our environment and also cool. In addition to that, he's got about a dozen other things he's thinking about, like a new transportation system to be built underneath the city of LA. Really extreme ideas. Do we know people like this? What about Captain Kirk? I mean, come on. He was extreme, but of course he's a fictional character. But what's he holding in his hand? Well, that's the most widely used tool on the planet right now, if you think about it. And this was in the mid-'60s when Gene Roddenberry, the creator of Star Trek, had a notion that someday people would use something like this, and now it's a widely used tool. So thinking that way, being sort of an extreme person, is that only for a small group of people? No, I don't really think it is. I think these ideas and the kind of ideas of exploring and getting to better solutions are available for anyone with the desire to use the tools that are available. So we're going to look at really two tools when we get into this today. We're going to look at the Page Composer, and we're going to look at Cafe One. And we've had a lot of discussion over the last 2 days about these and some of the other sessions. And I'm sure you've been to some sessions as well as where you've seen people utilize these in various ways, practical applications of those. We're going to kind of look at these from the standpoint of what are some extreme ways that we might be able to use those. And I want you, as participants in the session, to think about, could I in some way maybe pull one piece of this that I might be able to utilize in the way that I use the software, how I can push it out to my users, that it's going to help them to create new efficiencies that maybe they didn't even think about before, the things that I maybe not have even thought of before.